On the coldest Christmas Eve in years, the entire city shimmered with light, laughter, and the warmth of people gathering with their loved ones. But at the top of Ravenshire Hill, in the grand stone mansion everyone admired, but no one dared to approach, a single light burned in a window. Behind it sat Adrian Hayes, the famously unshakable CEO who conquered industry, but lost the only thing that once made his life feel whole. Every year, he waited on this night. Every year, he hoped for something different. And every year, he ended up alone. But this Christmas, fate was walking toward him in the form of a tired single mother and her small daughter carrying something that would shatter the walls he'd built around his heart and awaken the part of him he believed died forever. Before the story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and miracles arriving when we least expect them, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps more people find these heart-touching stories. Adrian's story began long before the knock on the door, long before the cold nights and unspoken memories trapped inside the mansion. Years ago, he had everything: a thriving company, a warm home, and a wife who filled every room with laughter. Their tradition was simple but sacred. Every Christmas Eve, they would sit by the fireplace, exchange handwritten letters instead of gifts, and talk about dreams for the new year. But dreams had a cruel way of turning into ghosts. A sudden accident took his wife away one December, and from that moment on, Christmas became the one day he feared most. While the world celebrated, he retreated into silence, waiting not for joy, but for the pain to pass. He could have left the mansion, could have traveled, could have buried himself in work, but something about Christmas Eve held him hostage, as if leaving the house on that day would be abandoning the last place where he had seen her alive. Every year he returned to the same chair, the same fire, the same unopened box that held her final letter, the one he could never bring himself to read. And so he sat, year after year, letting the memories consume him while the world outside danced with color and life. But destiny was not done with Adrian Hayes. Miles away, on the other side of the city, a young woman named Clara Bennett held her daughter Lily close as cold wind whipped around them. Clara's life had collapsed piece by piece, first the loss of her job, then the eviction notice, then the betrayal by the one person she trusted. All she had left was the small locket her mother gave her, a promise she made to Lily that things would get better, and a hand-knitted red scarf Lily's little fingers had crafted for someone who needed Christmas the most. Clara didn't know where to go next. Shelters were full, buses weren't running, and the temperature was dropping fast. When Lily pointed toward the distant mansion on the hill, saying she felt someone there was sad and needed a gift, Clara hesitated. Knocking on a stranger's door on Christmas Eve felt foolish, but her daughter's faith carried its own kind of magic. So they walked. Their shoes soaked through with snow, their fingers numb, their breaths heavy in the freezing air. The closer they got, the more overwhelming the mansion seemed: dark, intimidating, silent. But a single window glowed softly, as though someone was still awake inside, holding onto something unseen. Lily squeezed her mother's hand, and that small push of innocence brought Clara to the massive front door. She lifted her hand, scared, cold, unsure, and knocked. Inside, Adrian froze. No one ever came. Not on Christmas, not to the mansion, not to see him. For a moment, he wondered if he imagined it. But when the knock came again, louder, hesitant yet urgent, he forced himself to stand. His footsteps echoed in the empty hall, each one heavy with years of isolation. When he opened the door, the frigid wind rushed inside, along with the sight of a woman, shivering, and a little girl holding a red scarf wrapped in her tiny mittened hands. It was impossible to explain, even to himself, why something inside him shifted at the sight. Maybe it was the glistening snowflakes tangled in the girl's curls, the desperation hidden behind the mother's brave posture, or the reminder that once he had imagined Christmas with a child of his own. Whatever it was, it cracked something deep within him. Clara hadn't planned what to say. She hadn't planned anything. They simply needed warmth, shelter, maybe just a place to breathe. But Lily, with the innocence only children possess, stepped forward and held out the scarf toward the tall stranger with the tired eyes. Something about her small gesture disarmed him entirely. Adrian knelt to her level, and although he didn't know it yet, that simple movement was the first step toward rewriting his life. He invited them in. The warmth of the mansion enveloped them immediately. The fire crackled softly, the scent of cedarwood lingering in the air, and for the first time in years, Adrian realized how painfully silent the place had been. Clara apologized repeatedly, explaining their situation with embarrassment bleeding through every word. But instead of pity, Adrian felt something: unexpected recognition. The loneliness in her voice mirrored the emptiness in his own heart, and he understood, perhaps more than anyone, what it meant to lose everything and still keep moving because someone depended on you. He brought them blankets, warmed food, Even found some cookies his assistant insisted he keep for emergencies. Lily explored the room with curiosity, her laughter filling corners of the mansion that hadn't heard joy in a long time. Clara watched her daughter breathe warmth into a place built of cold stone and old grief, and she found herself relaxing for the first time in months. And Adrian, watching them both, felt a quiet transformation within himself, like someone had opened a window in a room he had sealed years ago. As the night unfolded, Clara shared fragments of her life, never complaining, never begging, simply explaining the truth with a strength that impressed him. Adrian, in turn, spoke about his wife for the first time since her passing. The memories came out in low, steady words, each one heavy yet strangely freeing. He didn't notice the tears that slid down his face until Clara gently looked away, giving him the dignity of vulnerability without judgment. Lily, curled up by the fire with a blanket around her, listened with the soft understanding only children have when they witness grown-up pain. Hours passed. The mansion, once cold and lifeless, felt warmer than it had in years. Adrian noticed how Lily had fallen asleep against her mother, how tired Clara looked despite her brave front. He offered them the guest rooms, insisting it was too dangerous to go back out. Clara hesitated, but exhaustion overcame her pride, and she agreed. That night, Adrian walked through the mansion with a feeling he couldn't name. For the first time since the tragedy, he wasn't alone on Christmas. For the first time, the silence wasn't suffocating, and for the first time he allowed himself to imagine the possibility of healing. But the true miracle came the next morning. While Adrian prepared breakfast awkwardly, because it had been years since he cooked anything, Lily wandered into the living room and discovered the unopened box on the mantel, the box containing his wife's final letter, the one he had never dared to open. Lily, unaware of its significance, asked Clara about it. Clara gently told her not to touch things that didn't belong to them, but something about the child's innocent question made Adrian stop in his tracks. Maybe it was time. With trembling hands, he lifted the box. Clara watched him with quiet understanding, and Lily held her mother's hand, sensing the heaviness in the air. When Adrian finally uncovered the letter, the paper yellowed slightly. With time, he felt his heart thrum painfully in his chest. The letter wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. It was a message of love, of hope, of a promise that he shouldn't let grief become his only companion. She urged him to live, to open his heart again, to allow life to bring unexpected blessings. And standing there, with Clara and Lily by the fireplace, he finally understood. His wife hadn't left him with emptiness. She had left him with permission to move forward. The tears came freely this time, but they didn't crush him. They cleansed something instead. Clara stepped forward, resting a gentle hand on his arm, offering silent support. Lily wrapped her little arms around his leg, sensing the importance of the moment. Adrian felt something inside him shift permanently, like the mansion itself exhaled after years of suffocating stillness. The hours that followed were filled with simple things: breakfast, warmth, shared smiles, the quiet joy of unexpected companionship. But those simple things stitched themselves into the kind of Christmas Adrian had once believed he would never feel again. He didn't let Clara and Lily leave that day. Instead, he helped them find a home, offered Clara a job that matched her skills, and over the month that followed watched both mother and daughter become part of a life he never imagined rebuilding. The mansion changed. The lights stayed on longer. Laughter returned. The ghost of loneliness faded. And the next Christmas, Adrian wasn't waiting alone. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow and lets me bring you more emotional stories like this. Before you go, comment below, do you believe people come into our lives exactly when we need them the most?